Hello Year 7 and welcome to Thursday's lesson. Today we are going to be looking at the poem Follower by Seamus Heaney. The first thing we'd like you to do is take a look at the title and come up with a prediction about what you think this poem is going to be about. Now remember that the theme of the poems we're looking at this term is childhood, so what might the title, Follower, suggest to you? So the poem we're looking at today, Follower, is written by a man named Seamus Heaney. Just like you did yesterday with Grace Nichols, see if you can find out some interesting facts about him, as it might help you understand the poem a little bit better when we start reading it. We'd like you to aim for 5 facts about Seamus Heaney, please. So now we come to actually reading the poem. I will read it through for you once, but please feel free to pause the video and reread it yourself before having a go at the 5 questions on the left. Follower. My father worked with a horse plough. His shoulders globed like a full sail, strung between the shafts and the furrow. The horse strained at his clicking tongue. An expert. He would set the wing and fit the bright steel-pointed sock. The sod rolled over without breaking. At the head rig, with a single pluck of reins, the sweating team turned round and back into the land. His eye narrowed and angled at the ground, mapping the furrow exactly. I stumbled in his hobnailed wake, fell sometimes on the polished sod. Sometimes he rode me on his back, dipping and rising to his plod. I wanted to grow up and plough, to close one eye, stiffen my arm. All I ever did was follow in his broad shadow round the farm. I was a nuisance, tripping, falling, yapping always. But today it is my father who keeps stumbling behind me and will not go away. So have a go now at the 5 questions on the left. What is your initial response to this poem? Read it through again, underline any unfamiliar words. There's a lot of technical farming terminology in there. You might want to look up something like furrow. You might want to look up the head rig. So there's a few things in there that you might be unfamiliar with. So see if you can find a definition for those. Read it aloud to yourself one more time. What is it that you notice about the poem that perhaps you didn't notice when you were reading it or when you were listening to it before? And then think back to the prediction you've just made based on the title, Follower. Was it correct? Did you predict what this poem is going to be about? If correct, brilliant. Can you find a line or a phrase in the poem that supports that prediction? Or if you weren't quite right, what line or phrase in the poem shows that actually it wasn't quite what you were thinking about? So see if you can find something to support or contradict your ideas. This is a poem that's all about looking up to your parent and wanting to follow in their footsteps. Seamus Heaney spent a lot of his childhood in a rural county Derry in Northern Ireland, and like I've just said, this poem uses a lot of farming language and imagery. This is a technique that's often used in poetry and in literature, and is something you will come across as we move through. This is called a semantic field. Now, a semantic field, the definition of that is a group of words linked by topic or theme. So please make sure that you get that into your book or onto the piece of paper wherever you're working. Read back over the poem one more time, highlight and list any examples of the semantic field of farming that you might find. Finally, Heaney comes from a long line of farmers, but he himself became a poet, a writer, and a university lecturer. So have a go at those 2 questions at the bottom of this slide. Think about how he might have felt about this and how his family might have reacted. Now we're going to zoom in a little bit more at the poem itself. Have a go at these 5 questions and make sure that you are answering in full, developed sentences. So not 2 words. Make sure you're telling me why you think something. See if you can find examples from the poem itself to help support your answer. Spelling, punctuation and grammar is really, really important, even though you're doing this at home and not in a classroom. So please make sure you're paying attention to that. If you feel like you want to challenge yourself, think about in those final 2 lines, but today it is my father who keeps stumbling behind me and will not go away. What do you think he might be meaning by that? And I said to think back a little bit about what we know about Heaney's life to help you out. Think about what we've just talked about. Finally, have a go at the 3-2-1 challenge. So you are now looking for 3 poetic language techniques and their definitions. 2 images used in Praise Song for My Mother, the poem we looked at yesterday, and what it is that they represent in that poem. And finally, 1 sentence. Make sure it is a full sentence that answers the question, what is the relationship like between the father and son in the poem Follower? So you are summarising this relationship in 1 sentence. Work hard, do as much as you can within the hour, and make sure that you send your class teacher your work. I will see you tomorrow.